Hey y'all, Alana's mom here, and today we are on day 9 of finding ways to honor my late daughter. And although I don't have any special activities for us to engage in today, I do have a story that I would like to share with you pertaining to the call. So, as you guys are fully aware that Alana did live on a mechanical device called the Berlin's Heart for 10 months of her life, as we awaited a phone call stating that she received a heart donor. And let me just share this with you guys because I think it's very important that you note. Although Alana did receive the opportunity to live on the mechanical device for 10 months of her life, the doctors made it very clear that there is no guarantee that Alana will even receive a heart donor, let alone a phone call stating that it's a match. So, therefore, again, if you don't receive anything from what I'm sharing with you, God will and God can, and He has. And if He did it for me, He can do it for you. And just because He didn't do it for me does not mean He can't and He won't do it for you. So let's make that clear, okay? Now, watching my daughter live on this mechanical device for 10 months of her life and also 10 months of mine was very difficult. I was in unfamiliar territory. It almost felt like God had just threw me in nursing school. I received the experience without receiving a degree. Just know I had absolutely no knowledge, no history, no experience in any of these subjects pertaining to Alana's heart diagnosis. I was thrown into a medical field. I was thrown into a hospital by force. I had to fastly accumulate knowledge pertaining to Alana's heart on a day to day. I didn't go to school for any of this. I didn't study from any of this. All of this is strictly from experience. And although I am grateful for the experience and the knowledge that I was able to retain, but again, a lot of this was just by force. It's because I didn't have a choice. My daughter was fighting for her life, and I was also fighting for mine, especially when it came to all these medical terms, these medical devices, the medications. Man, and once upon a time, Alana was prescribed 33 medications. They were getting ready to send us home with 33 medications for Alana to take in order for her transplant to thrive the way that they imagined. But before I get there, let's talk about the phone call. Okay, June 3rd, 2022. I had just put Alana to bed, and I decided to go across the street to sit in my car to possibly take a nap. Again, living in a hospital with a child that has a heart diagnosis who's also awaiting for a heart transplant was extremely difficult. There was no peace there was no quietness, and there was never any rest that took place, at least in my experience. So because of that, a lot of times I would go sit in my car across the street at Vaughn's. And Vaughn's parking lot basically became my second home. Um, there's a lot of special memories that took place in that parking lot. There's many sleepless nights that took place in that parking lot. There's times where I attempted to get rest in that parking lot, because the parking lot was directly across the street from Children's Hospital, and I just remember yearning for yearning for some rest, but there was this particular weariness that was taking place that just would not allow me to sleep. Now, I don't know if you ever experienced something where you're fighting so hard between your mind and your body, because it's like your body needs rest, but your mind is telling you otherwise. So because of this weariness that was taking place, I now feel there was a particular reason why that weariness took place, and why I couldn't sleep, and why God led me directly to my car um, on June 3rd. Because it had to have been around 11:30 or so that I decided to go to my car. So I was only sitting in my car for about 30 minutes or so before I received the call on June 4th at 12:15 a.m. from Alana's transplant team, Miss Donna, stating that we have a match. Now, I do not remember the conversation word by word, but I do remember the calmness in Miss Donna's voice as she relayed that message. I remember trying to, because I didn't lose my composure, but I was just trying to figure out how to feel. I had no idea on how to feel by receiving that call, because, again, it's bittersweet. I knew not to just get up and rejoice. Because honestly, what am I rejoicing for? Yes, thank God for what He has done. But because of who I am, I had already, prior to receiving that call, I had already known how hard it was going to be to receive and accept the fact that, yes, Alana did receive a match, but it was at the cost of another child's life. Another child's life that was potentially the same age as Alana, same race, same height, same color. I don't know. Till this day, I will never know anything about the heart donor, because there is a policy and there are consent forms that we as parents sign stating privacy of the heart donor and the heart donor's family. So till this day, um, I don't know the gender, I don't know the race. I don't know the background. I don't know if, what happened to the child. I don't know if it was just natural causes or an accident or whatever the case may be. They do not disclose this information. And I completely understand why. But they do tell you, if the parents decide to reach out to you, you have the okay to then engage with the parents and share your stories and blase blase, go from there. But unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it still lingers in the back of my mind of the parents who lost their child but still said yes. I can't imagine losing your child, and then you have these hospitals, then you have the doctors in your face asking you, do you consent to your child to be a heart donor? Because obviously the child had to still be alive to some degree in order for the heart to still function. Um, so even to this day, man, I think about those parents. I think about those parents so much. Cause it could have been somebody's grandma, somebody's auntie, somebody's foster kid. You just never know. And the fact that I don't know, it hurts even more, because I just want to hug them. I want to hug them. I want to hug them. I want to hug them so much, because they didn't have to say yes. They did not have to consent to allowing their child to be a heart donor, to where it extended Alana's life for 2 more months. And that was 2 more months that God had granted to me, that I will never take for granted. So moving forward, I remember receiving that call, sitting in my car. Donna was basically giving me the rundown. So from what I remember, I was just trying to hold it together as she was briefly explaining to me the next steps of what would take place. She explained to me that after we receive a heart, they would then transport it to the hospital. And being that this is a living organ, the procedure has to take place immediately, which it did the next day. But before we get to the transplant, let me tell you about the phone call. She basically was stating to me that to keep in mind that there's often after receiving the heart, the doctors do have the power to decline if they felt it wasn't a good match. But by God's grace, in Alana's case, it was a match. And I'm not sure if I would ever describe it to be the perfect match, because there was nothing perfect about that situation, especially knowing that it was at the cost of another child's life. Obviously, God felt me being in my car would be a safe space to receive that call. So looking back, I do believe the weariness that took place of me not being able to sleep in the hospital room with Alana that night was because he knew it was going to lead to that exact phone call. Now, after I got off the phone with Donna, this is where I struggled the most, because I thought about this day. I always thought about this day, and I just never knew how I would react, because the way that I wanted to respond after receiving this phone call was, I genuinely, when I tell you, I genuinely wanted to call her father and relay the news to him. I almost called her father. His number was in my phone. I pulled it up, and I just couldn't press the call button. I sat there for about 10 minutes. Deciphering if I should make this phone call or not. And that was without even having to go to God about it. So I just started to pray. And ask God, I want to do the right thing. Although this man has harmed me, he's hurt me, he's abandoned his child, and anybody that knows me, I'm not a problematic person. I'm not a disrespectful woman. This man started to maneuver as if I have full control to even deny him access to his daughter. I text that man multiple times. You don't have to come to me for information for your daughter. If you genuinely feel like I'm the problem, you have the number to the hospital, and you have full access, and you have legal access. He knows this because the social worker not only related to him, but they related to me. If I felt like I didn't want Robert to be in that hospital room, there was nothing I can do, because legally, he has the right to come see his daughter. There was nothing said in court. I didn't have no restraining order on this man. We weren't beefing. No, nothing. We didn't start beefing until I started acknowledging his absence. And then well, why you on me so much? Because you're not here. I'm going through this by myself. It's COVID. My family is not here. My friends are not here. Alana needs her father, and I need support, bro. I needed that support, and I didn't have that support because he chose not to be there. Not because I told him not to come. Not because he was banned from the hospital. Not because I'm a problematic person or... Bro, doesn't matter. Alana doesn't need anything. All she needs is your presence. And I'm not talking about the ones you gift her physically. I'm talking about your physical presence. Alana just needed her father. At least that's what I was believing or trying to convince myself. Because I just felt it wasn't fair for this man to have a woman in the midst of this hospital journey. How did your dick even get hard when your daughter is fighting for her life, bro? Oh, I wanted to share that phone call with her father, but I couldn't. God didn't instill that in me. I don't know if I went against his word or what, but I prayed. And it just felt like it would be much more wrong for me to share that information with him than it would be to share and call and give him the news. I couldn't even text him. I could tell you, I sat there multiple times, texting and deleting, and it was not in me to send or to relay the message to that man, because I couldn't. I just felt like it would have been, I had to step aside from Alana for a second, because every reason why I would ever reach out to that man was on Alana's behalf. It was never because I wanted to be with that man, or I missed that man, or I needed something for that man. If that man came to that hospital to see his daughter, it followed up with some sex, because that's what that man wanted. That man, he figured that if he couldn't have me the way that he used to, he didn't want no parts of being in his child's life. And if he don't say that verbatim, his actions proved it. His actions proved it. And I have every receipt to show otherwise, as to how many times I asked and begged this man to come see his daughter. Alana did not need nothing from him but his presence, and I made that very clear to him multiple times, but he felt he was being attacked. And I don't know the type of man that he's grown to be today, but at that time, Robert was very immature. Robert ran away from hard conversations. He ran away from hard situations for his own reasons, and I am not to blame. You cannot blame me for your absence, sir, and I refuse to allow you to continue to use me as an excuse. Because again, regardless of what that man did to me in the midst leading up to that phone call, I still had the want. I still had the want to call him to let him know the good news. There's no one else in my family that would have rejoiced the way that we would have rejoiced together, knowing how long our daughter was fighting for her life. But prior to her receiving that call, he still wasn't there. He didn't get a chance to watch Alana take her first steps on that Berlin's heart. He didn't get a chance to watch Alana or listen to Alana say her first words. He did not get a chance to do that, and it was all by choice. So anyway, I didn't end up calling. Who I did call was this woman that I had met in the midst of our journey. I called this woman who I had developed such an amazing relationship with in the midst of us living in the hospital. And you will never guess her name. Her name was Alana. I will call her Miss Alana. Miss Alana would come to that hospital to sit with me, pray with me. She gave me a Bible. She kept me encouraged because, bro, at the time I wasn't heavily involved with my church family. I knew that they were there. I knew that I had access to them. But God knew that Miss Alana was going to be the one to come up to that hospital and pray for me and with me in such time of need. And because of that, I just felt like it was God sent. Because it ain't no way. Ain't no way. That's the first Alana I have ever met outside of my daughter. So it just felt like it was aligned. And I called this woman, and I just remember telling her, pouring my heart out to her. She received the phone call, we got it, God did it, like he's good. And she starts praying. And I feel that's why I did it. That's why I didn't reach out to her father, because I wasn't going to receive the same response that I received from her, which was prayer. Because I felt God knew that when he does something that big for you, he wants the thanks. He wants you to give him thanks. He wants to be the first person you think about. And he was the first person I thought about Don't get me wrong. Once I got off of that phone call, I start praying, and then I start asking myself, okay, who do I call? Who do I share such news with? And I knew it was 12 a.m., so I wasn't thinking about calling my siblings or my auntie or nothing. I didn't want to wake them. I didn't want to bother them or nothing. Because I just knew it wasn't going to be, I don't want to weary them. I did not want them to worry for any reason. So I called Miss Solana. She starts praying, and then she starts asking me to pray. She starts asking me to pray, bro, and that was like the first time in my life where I genuinely did not know what to say. I genuinely did not know what to say. I was stuttering over my words. It was like God made me nervous. God made me nervous to say that prayer, but I knew that He knew what I was trying to say. He knew what I was trying to get out. And all I remember from that prayer was I was saying, because I was listening to a song, and this song it's just this particular line that has always stayed with me. And it quotes, and it's Isaiah 43:2, and it reads, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame torch you." And essentially, God is saying you have to go through the fire, but the fire will not destroy you because I am with you. And that's the way that I felt. And I was trying to get it out of my mouth. I was trying to get those words out of my mouth because, bro, I felt like it wasn't just Alana that was going through that fire. It was me. It was me, and I still felt untouched. I felt untouched after I received that phone call, bro. Because He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it, but He did. And let me share with you why I felt like I was untouched. Because literally a couple days prior to receiving that call, I had seen her father for the first time in months. And I didn't just, I didn't see him and have an interaction with him or have a conversation. I was pulling into the hospital. I was making a ride into the hospital. He was coming out of the hospital, and he was also making a right. I'm sitting at that light, anticipating making that right to turn into the hospital parking lot. And he's maybe like 10 feet away from me, waiting to also make that right to exit out of the hospital. And when I tell you, I looked up and seen that man behind that wheel, it took everything in me not to react. And let me tell you what, because this man, Alana's father, same man I wanted to call, the same night, because I'm telling you, this is the same man who has painted me out to be such a bad person in the midst of this journey. This man locks eyes with me. And when I tell y'all, I have a lot of my mother in me. So I know what I'm capable of. But the strength that I have always retained to not be anything similar like my mother, as far as reacting and being disrespectful and acting off of impulse, this man locked eyes with me, stuck out his tongue like a child. He smiled at me. He smiled at me, stuck out his tongue like this, and continued driving. He hit that right corner, but before he hit that right corner, and after he stuck that tongue out at me, I promise you, it took nobody but God to keep that foot on that brake, because I was ready to lose it all. I was ready to lose it all. When I say lose it all, I had every intentions to run into that man's truck because I had straight access. If I was to hit my gas, I'm telling you, so when it's like sitting at the corner, your tires, slightly turned, but it's not fully turned. So all it would take is just for me to hit the and then the gas, and, you feel me? And I'm telling you, it was a straight hit. It could have been a straight hit on my daughter. It could have been a straight hit. But for God to give me the strength to withhold the first reaction that I wanted to act on, Bro, it took everything in me. I promise you, till this day, y'all have no idea the strength and the thoughts that I tried to act upon, but God has given me the strength to be better. But I wanted to take that man out. And yes, that woman that he is with now, the same woman he abandoned me for, the same woman he abandoned his daughter for, to have another child with, that ended up at the same hospital, literally one floor above us for months, was in the car with him. So I could have took all of them out. Just imagine. Just imagine. Just imagine. Bro. But then I had to think to myself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I knew that's all it would have took for that man to sit up there and say, see, I told you so. It was her all along. I knew that if I would have ended up in jail, I couldn't count on that man to be there for my daughter. And if he was gonna sit up in there and have another woman up in there with her. Ain't no way. No. I was not risking it all. All the pain that we had been through, all the sleepless nights that I had to endure by myself, I was not about to risk it all for one mistake. That mistake could have landed me in jail for the rest of my life, but that's not the first mistake that I thought about making. But we'll get to that later. I'm telling y'all, that man has done so much to me that it instilled a lot of hate towards him. I promise you. And I hated him so much because I loved him. It wasn't because of what he did to me. It's because you forced me to feel this way about you due to your actions. So I just want y'all to understand. There were plenty of times, so many times within that hospital journey, especially when they ended up at that hospital, I got off of the elevator before I even seen her father. Before I even seen her father for that first time in months, I seen the child's mother. I seen his current wife holding the baby as I got off the elevator. When I tell you, I was 1 inch away from poking that little baby in the nose. And she knew it because she felt it. We swiped shoulders. I kept walking to my daughter's room, but when you keep walking, but you feel somebody watching you, and I turned my head like this and I seen her. It was like she was in disbelief. Like, oh, dang, that's her. I finally seen her. Yeah. I just didn't say anything. Because I had the courage, I had the strength to keep walking. But I'm telling you, I am my mother's daughter. Initially, I would have whooped her ass. I would have politely asked her to put that baby down and whooped her ass. But then I had to step aside myself and realize that woman did not do nothing to me. She is a victim, and even if she's not a victim, even if she knew of all the horrible things her man had done to me and his daughter, she's next. She's next. If she has yet to experience it yet, she is in for a surprise. So that is the only thing that kept me, because I have to realize she's not living a better life. There's no way she's ever going to live a better life than I. There's no way. God doesn't bless mess. God is not going to bless that marriage. That nothing that came after Alana and I was of God. And I can tell you that because it didn't happen in the right place. It didn't happen at the right time. It didn't happen for the right reasons. Trust me, for a while I had to convince myself because it looked good. They had an expensive wedding, all type of shit, more kids. Can y'all imagine that? The same year I buried my daughter, this man gets married. He not only gets married, he paid for a wedding, but he not only gets married the same year I bury our daughter, he doesn't attend the burial. His family doesn't attend the burial. His family is all at the wedding, though. They all in celebration at the wedding, but nobody showed up for Alana. And ain't no way they can sit here and say they didn't show up to the funeral because I was such a bad person. They can't say that. They better not ever fix their lips to say that, because I was there for every single one of his family members, and I still love them to death till this day. There's nothing they can say to make me change my mind about them. Anything that I have or anything that I feel has always been and it will be towards Robert. But I'm just telling y'all, I have been put in place in a situation where I was constantly tested, and I don't know if it was by God or the enemy, but they got another thing coming because I passed every test. It may not have been perfect. I may have to repent for the way that I may have thought, the things that I wanted to do, but I did not act upon them. But when I tell you, I was tested continuously. I was tested by this man. So it's nothing y'all can do to tell me, because I lived it. I'm living out the reality the whole time. He could tell y'all anything he want to tell y'all, but we living in two different realities. And that's just that. So I just remember her closing in prayer. And then I couldn't stay on the phone long because I had to go upstairs. I just had to go upstairs and lay with my daughter, bro. I got in the hospital bed. I used to sleep in the hospital crib. I don't know if you ever witnessed how big a hospital crib is for a baby, for a child, for a toddler. But I am 5'10", 213 pounds. Bro, I got in the hospital bed with my daughter and I spent the night with her. I hugged her, I kissed her, I loved her. I didn't wake her, but I just prayed. I was just saying, thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord, thank you. And I just remember being at church when I was younger. First Lady Marie Ross, she tried to instill, the Holy Ghost within us and teach us. And she said the fastest way to do it, the quickest way to do it, just say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So I was just laying there holding my daughter, just saying Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, because it was nobody but him. It was nobody but him. And I was just grateful, bro. I was so grateful. I was hurt. I was hurting, but I was grateful at the same time. The thought of the child that lost their life never, and he or she never left my mind. So I didn't walk in that hospital room overly cocky or, filled with joy. Nobody knew. I walked in there like it was just another day. And I got in the bed with my baby because I knew they were getting ready to prepare her for a surgery. A surgery again that wasn't even guaranteed that she was going to make it out. Oh my God. My God. So I didn't get any sleep. I probably was on 2 hours of sleep. And I have photos to show you. I took pictures of how I cried so much, bro. I took pictures of how swollen my eyes were. They were just so swollen, bro. And the pictures, though, they don't justify it because I got on my knees. And I thank God. I thank God. But it felt weird. It felt so weird. I'm thanking him for a heart that once belonged to another child. But he still showed me what he can do. He still showed me what Alana was worthy of. He still showed me that her pain did not go in vain. That 10 months that she had lived prior to waiting for that phone call, all of those sleepless nights, those heart surgeries, the heart failure, bro. It wasn't in vain. At least that's what I was beginning to think. It wasn't in vain. Because it didn't stop there. God just kept going and going and going until he stopped. But even then, my faith never wavered. So anyway, June 4th, I dressed my daughter up in this purple dress. I had a box of bows. I let her pick whatever bow you want, baby girl. It's on you. You feel me? Like, I can't say that she didn't know what was taking place because my daughter felt what was going to take place, and I've seen it and I felt it in her behavior, and I have videos to prove it to you. At the time, I was looking like what I was going through. I admit, because I'm living in the hospital caring for my child. I didn't have time for self-care. I didn't have time to worry about my skin or my hair. I was going through postpartum. Imagine having a baby, and then 2 days after you give birth to that baby, they tell you that she has a fatal heart diagnosis. And then not only that, she had her first surgery 3 days after birth, and you're still going through postpartum. And then not only are you going through postpartum, you're being forced to handle and endure all of these situations alone. Now, don't get me wrong, this man was there in the beginning. He was there for some months, a couple, maybe, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months, until he wasn't. So I'm not going to never not give him his credit for being there in the beginning. Yeah, it was there. But it wasn't until I start setting boundaries. And I'm going to be honest, man, when you break up with a man who got an ego, that will hurt his ego. You know, I'm not saying that's why he didn't return, but from knowing her father, that's part of the reason. He's seen that he couldn't control me any longer, because once I had that baby, and I started to realize that I'm still in the midst of these generational curses that have yet to be broken. Oh no, it stops here. Because he put his hands on me while I was holding my daughter, and I moved out of his house. I moved out of his mother's house. Yes, I did. There's a lot of things he's not going to tell you. But that's why I'm so happy that I'm the only one who can share her story. I'm the only one that can write a book about it. But bro, I'm going through all of this in the midst of postpartum. I didn't know what postpartum was. This is my first child. I've heard talks about it. I've seen people I probably may have recognized some behaviors just from being around friends who may have had babies and stuff like that. But to experience that all in the midst of this, while my daughter is fighting for her life, living out of my car, leaving jobs, no financial assistance, no emotional support, all of this is taking place during COVID. I had to be in that hospital by myself. I had to. But the one person that I thought would be there for me in a time of need, knowing that I was there for him in every shortcoming, every downfall, every loss that man took, I was there for him. And I felt disrespected on Alana's behalf. Forget me. You already showed me how you felt about me, but your daughter, the one that you asked me to have, the one that I carried, you just gonna up and leave her? I'm gonna stop saying that. She didn't need you. She didn't need that man. I thought she needed him. But we had a man. But I was too blind to see it at the time, because I'm running off of emotions. I'm going through postpartum. I'm thinking the man that I had a child with is gonna be by my side. But he wasn't. So this is why I'm so adamant and so passionate about telling my story. And when people tell me, oh, forget about him, you don't have to. What do you mean forget about him? I can't. Y'all don't know the pain that this man has caused me. And I take accountability for that, because I do feel, again, God broke my heart to save my soul, but he used my daughter for a higher purpose, because he counted me being hard-headed. He counted me ignoring all the red flags. He counted me still being abused and going back. He counted on me being abused by this man and still going back, and I mean physically and mentally. Yeah. You know, I'm the quiet type. I am not a problematic person. I wasn't the baby mama that was bringing drama. I wasn't. It was me standing up for myself in the world where this man brought me into a world that I didn't ask to be in. But I stayed there because I'm thinking, maybe we could work it out. You know, I see my mom go through this. She forgave her husband. They kind of worked it out. I don't know, it didn't really work out for real, but they loved each other. So I'm basking in the love that I thought this man had for me. I'm thinking the love that we have for each other was strong enough for us to be there, even if we weren't together. I couldn't even co-parent with this man. So y'all don't think that affects me? But anyway, I dressed my daughter up in a purple dress. I let her pick out her hair bow. And again, there's a time in that journey where once they receive the heart the heart arrives to the hospital, they have to evaluate the heart to make sure that it is a match. Now, y'all ready for this? Now, mind you, I'm running off of 2 hours of sleep. Immediately woke up because what they do is they prepare her, gave her her last bath. They prepare her for the surgery prior to, as before they evaluate the heart and all that, because they have to clean her Berlin's device and all that, sanitize it. And after, they completed her dressing and stuff like that, I got a lot of dress. And I mean like dressing change, not dressing. They completed her dressing change. I got on a dress, put on that bow, and we were just waiting. We had already done our part. We were just waiting for the doctor to come back to verify that it was a match. Now, this is an experience that, again, I will never forget. Dr. Molly, one of my favorite doctors to this day. Till this day. Because I just... when people are God sent. You just know. You just know. Especially if you have that relationship with the Lord. You just know. And Dr. Molly, I remember, she walked into them doors. She walked into the hospital door. She walked into the hospital room. And she just had this look on her face. And I ain't gonna lie, I was already prepared to receive the bad news of them stating it wasn't a match. Cause, just at this point in my life, I'm just used to receiving bad news. But she walked into the hospital room, bro, with a smile on her face and them blue eyes. She looked at me and said, "Denisha, it's a match." And for me, I don't know if she cried. It kind of looked like, she was trying to withhold those tears. But she looked at me and said, "Denisha, it's a match." I just remember hugging her. She hugged me, bro. She hugged me. And I needed that hug. Because at that moment, again, I didn't have nobody to share the news with. Nobody was around me. Family was at home asleep. Dad was just doing whatever he was doing at the time, just completely unaware. So she just embraced me. And after she left that room, I closed that door and I got on my knees. Alana looking at me like I'm crazy. But I just didn't care. I didn't care, bro. I didn't care, bro, because we had come so far. Watched my daughter fight so long and so hard through any and everything you can think of. And she defeated the odds. She overcame each and every procedure. So my daughter, she never looked like what she'd been through until she had to look like what she'd been through. Don't get me wrong. I've seen many faces of Alana. There's plenty. The faces that y'all see, this face right here, it came in many different shapes and sizes. Everything that she'd been through. So after I got on my knees and prayed, I did not leave that hospital room. I have no other plans for the day. The only plans for that day was to embrace my daughter, and that's exactly what I did. We sang, we played, we listened to music, we danced, nothing but gospel music. I played one of her favorite songs, and she just started clapping. She starts praising, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know something. You know something. You have to know something. But I just, bro, I remember basking in that moment. The doctors and some of the nurses were coming by to congratulate us, before the surgery took place. And That was the longest wait of my life. After they took Alana to the operation room, I didn't know what to do with myself, bro. Again, mind you, I'm by myself. So majority of the day, it was a point to, I think I called my auntie and my brother to come up there with me for a little bit because the surgery took about 21 hours. Can you imagine your child being in surgery for just about a full day? Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, anything can happen at that point. Anything can happen within those 20 to 22 hours. But God, but God. But God, but God, but God, but God. That's why I keep telling y'all, but God. If y'all don't get nothing from this experience, but God. Say it with me. But God, okay? It's Him. It wasn't the nurses. It wasn't the doctors. It wasn't the science. It was God, okay? He is the only one that can get credit for what took place. I know that's the only one I'm giving credit to. I don't know about y'all. Y'all take that up with whoever y'all serve. But I'm telling you, big G-O-D, yeah, the one that sent his son, Jesus, okay, we're getting somewhere now, right? So I'm just hoping for y'all to just use my story. I have a reason to believe because I'm telling you, if you don't see it for yourself, bro, Alana was a miracle herself, bro. She was angelic. She was an angel. But I just remember sitting in that hospital, that waiting room, anticipating my daughter to make it out that surgery, and she did. 22 hours later, we just gonna say, it probably was 21 and 30 minutes. I don't know how many hours, but we just gonna say it was 22 hours. My daughter had a successful heart transplant. And it was nobody but God. And if you are a parent out there who's watching your child endure anything similar to what Alana endured, regardless of the heart diagnosis, let's just be clear. Yes, Alana qualified for the Billings device. Yes, Alana received a heart transplant. Yes, it prolonged her life for 2 more months. And yes, it eventually ended up rejecting. But because he didn't do it for me does not mean he won't do it for you. And everything that he did for me, it can be done for you and more. That's my point. I want you to know that it doesn't stop there. Don't look at my story. Don't look at Alana's life and think, oh, she got a heart transplant, but my child might not live that long to see it or enjoy it. We don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know that. I didn't know Alana's heart was going to inject 2 months later. I didn't know that. But I also didn't know she was going to receive a heart donor. I also didn't know that she was going to survive heart failure. I didn't know that she was going to thrive, to watch her take her first steps, say her first words. Regardless of what the conditions was, where it took place, and who was there, he still did it. He still showed up. Okay? So I'm telling you, you cannot lean on those doctors and those nurses in your support system alone. That's not going to get you through. That's not going to get your child through. You need prayer. You need fasting. And you need prayer warriors. Because for somebody like me, bro, I don't have the best relationship with God, but I know who does. I surround myself with people who have a stronger relationship with the Lord because of their covering. The covering is real. If you don't believe that I'm still here off the strength of somebody else's prayer, you are stupid. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but you don't be dumb. I'm not here by my own strength. Alana was not here by her own strength, and it definitely wasn't yours. So I just urge you. I urge you. Pray more. Open that Bible. Put that Bible at the end of that hospital bed. Put it underneath that child's pillow. Put it underneath your pillow. Even if you don't read it. I didn't read my Bible every day, but I had it. Because I know My Bible was a weapon. You're walking in the facility filled with different spirits, different people, different diagnoses, different backgrounds, different races, different beliefs. Especially Children's Hospital in LA. It's directly across the street from a Scientology church. And I'm not saying every doctor in there was a part of that, but I know some that were. And they did not even have to tell me. Just off of the strength of every time I would mention God, it make them tremble. They'll shut down. They won't acknowledge what I just said because it had God in it. But I didn't care. I kept God in that room. And they knew that. I'm a firm believer of Christ. Yes. Absolutely right. He sent his son. Yeah, and did. I don't know nothing about no Scientology. Science didn't save my daughter's life. Bill Nye, the science guy, did not save my daughter's life, even though that's my dog. But I'm just saying. Without God, there would be no science. Without God, y'all wouldn't be able to study nothing y'all studying in that place. And I'm talking to the ones at the Scientology place. Y'all need to get about that thing. I'm just saying, don't let nobody tell you otherwise. If you know and you are a firm believer of Christ and you know he sent his son and you know that's the only way your child is in there thriving and surviving, don't be ashamed of that. Do not be ashamed. There's a lot of people in there who you can't even discuss religion with them because they get offended. But God knew that and he's seen that because there were certain people who would pull me aside and say, I admire your strength and your relationship with the Lord. These are nurses and doctors. But they couldn't just upright and say it because they were afraid that it's going to affect their job. It's like two things you don't discuss, politics and religion. But I don't care what nobody say. My God is not about religion. It's about relationship. It's about being a believer. And I believed that he was going to carry my daughter through, and he did. He did, from the beginning to the end. But he didn't just carry her through. He carried me through. Because I'm still here, for whatever reason, telling you my story, making you cry, while you holding a cellular device in your hand. Ha! Who would have thought that, huh? Cry, baby. Wipe them tears. But yeah, man. I'm sorry that it got so passionate and it got so emotional. But the call. As I'm writing my book, I want you guys to remember this video. Whenever it does come out, this portion is going to be titled The Call. This chapter is going to be titled The Call. Because it wasn't just a call. It wasn't an average phone call. No, this was a call from God. God arranged this phone call. What they say, call him up and tell him what you want? Yeah. Yeah. It's real. It's real. And again, I'm not here to force nothing upon y'all, but I'm not gonna not tell you who brought me through. Especially my daughter. Especially my daughter, bro. We'll get into that later. But look. This is nobody but God. I did not make these. These came from the nurses. Bro, look. I have birthday cards. Paper towels. Nurses were writing on, stopping by, leaving me letters. Do you not see it? Paper towels. The nurses didn't have nothing to write on, so they found a paper towel to leave a message while I'm going through the toughest time of my life. And if you don't think Alana was loved the way that I describe it to be, all of these, this is a birthday card that I received on Alana's second birthday. The birthday she was still here, but she didn't get a chance to experience because she was already in rejection at that point. You count how many letters and colors you see and messages you see on this card. This was nobody but God. I didn't ask for any of this. They seen They seen the gift that God instilled in me. They seen the love and the passion and the commitment that I had towards my child. And it was nobody but God. Hard to acknowledge that. I didn't ask for no acknowledgement, but I told you, I fell short of nothing. I'm thinking all the acknowledgments that I needed was supposed to come from her father. To this day, I have not got a thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for picking up where I lacked at. I'll always be sorry. Yeah, we know that. We know that. We knew you were sorry. But are you apologetic? So again, this is going to conclude day 9. And I'm going to do my best to make day 10 as fun as possible so we don't have to just be so emotional all the time. Cry baby, yeah. You was crying, I was crying, we some crybabies. It's okay, it's okay. It's Alana's fault though, it's cool. It's cool. But look, y'all, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay connected. Stay connected, please. Please, y'all. I cannot share my story without y'all. It would be no point. I'm sharing my story and none of y'all feel inspired. I'm doing it wrong. So, again, thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I will see y'all on day 10.